This one's kind of hard. Oh no, it's not. Nice. Okay. Cool. Okay, so everything I just played was starting in the key of C, using the diatonic chords in the key of C. It was a 1, 6, 2, 7 progression, and I just wanted to take it through the various modulations you can take it through, because I think the minor 7 flat 5 or half diminished chord is often overlooked when it comes to creating tension. You can use it as a resolution chord, like I'm pretty sure Autumn Leaves, the tonic chord, if you're in the key of G minor, it would be like a G minor 6, right? Something like that, but that's also the same thing as, or that E minor 7 flat 5. Okay, same thing as G minor 6. So you can use it as a chord to fall onto, but that's even too spicy for me, so I just like to use it as a kind of like a launching pad to go other places. So the first thing I want to talk about is going to be the half whole diminished scale. So when we look at this B minor 7 flat 5 that's found in the key of C, we're just going to call that B half diminished. It means the same thing, okay? So B half diminished exists within the B half whole diminished scale, which goes like, and diminished scales, whether it's half whole or whole half, they're symmetric in minor third increments. So what that means is I can take any shape, whether it's this or even a major 7 shape, which is found in a whole half diminished scale. I can take this B minor 7 flat 5 or B half diminished, and I can move it in minor thirds. Okay, so if we just look at the key of C and how the chords function within the key of C, typically your 5 resolving to your 1 is your strongest sense of resolution, right? Your G to C. So that works as well, but you can substitute the 7 for the 5 and you get kind of a different sound. You would get, right? That's all fine and dandy. And we can couple our knowledge with this half step, I guess, resolution upwards. This half step resolution upwards, we can couple that with the knowledge that you can move that half diminished chord in minor third increments, and all of those chord subs that you could go to. So say I wanted to substitute for this B half diminished an F, an F half diminished. Yeah, let's say I want to substitute an F half diminished, because I can. That's 2 minor thirds away. That means the chord that I would resolve a half step upwards towards would be G flat major. this is G flat major 7 in this case. I could just do G flat major, right? Very pretty, but that 7th, that major 7th adds just like a nice touch of color. You know, if you voice lead correctly, it's possible to resolve to it well. Anyway, so yeah, we can use this knowledge of the chord subs to resolve upwards a half step, right? And when it comes to chord subs, a cool thing about them is we don't have to do them. A cool thing about them is we don't have to do them. A cool thing about them is we don't have to do them. So if there's no defining melody over top that says you're specifically in the key of C over this B half diminished, you know, then it's appropriate to move around. It's not, you know, it's not like insulting to do that. Like if there's like a defining melody in C over top, like if there's something like that over top of this chord, it would be just kind of like really messy, especially to the untrained ear, to do minor third substitutions based off the half whole diminished scale. So if there's no defining melody over top, I think it's justified to do those subs, but you don't even have to do them because they can take time. And if you don't want to waste listeners' time doing the substitution, if you call that wasting time, you can just skip it. You don't have to do the sub. So as long as you voice lead, you can do whatever you want. So as long as you voice lead, you can do whatever you want. So as long as you voice lead, you can do whatever you want, right? So if you want to, you know, substitute the half diminished chord that is 2 minor thirds away or diminished fifth away, you don't even have to go up there. You can just find a different place to grab this G flat chord, you know. So if you want to go from there to there, like maybe depending on the context, that arrangement sounds fine on its own, but I prefer to have my voices kind of work closer together as much as they can. So maybe I would just do something like that. You know, all I did was I went from my C to first inversion of B half diminished. And that upper voice, the major 7th of the G flat major chord is the same thing as the flat 5th of the B half diminished chord, okay? So it's just nice to share that common tone in the highest voice, I think. That's just my opinion, but I think it's nice to share that common tone, especially when you're going to like a different realm, like that G flat major. You know, it's literally on the opposite side of the circle of fifths from C. So yeah, that's how I would go about doing that. And so that applies for all the other chords too. So you don't have to do a chord sub if you want to go from B half diminished to D half diminished. You don't have to do a chord sub to get to your E flat major. What you can do is you can just go to E flat major like same voicing. The voicing I'm playing is a 1, 2, 5, 7, 3 up top, and then 4 on the low E string. So yeah, you don't even have to play the D half diminished. You can just go straight to E flat, okay? So that's the half diminished scale, or that's a half whole diminished scale, how it corresponds to half diminished chords, how you can substitute those half diminished chords in minor thirds, and how you can resolve upwards a half step. So now I want to talk about something else. So we talked about resolving upwards a half step, but that is just using the knowledge that we have of the harmonization of the major scale. You know, it's the I am terrible at terminology. I want to say it's the subtonic that can resolve up a half step to the tonic. Okay, so we have that nice relationship, and we have the fact that we can move this around in minor thirds, and we can resolve upwards. Okay, that's great. But we haven't even touched on the scales that this half diminished chord exists in, like diatonic scales, other than major. So there's also harmonic major and harmonic minor. And in harmonic major and minor, you find this, say if you find a B half diminished chord, you'll find that in A harmonic major or you'll find this chord in A harmonic minor, okay? So it's the 2 chords, so maybe the supertonic of the harmonic major and minor scales. So with that knowledge, we can do the same thing we did with our knowledge of resolving upwards a half step. We can resolve downwards a full step. And because this is in the half whole diminished scale, we just resolve downwards. And what I just played here, this D half diminished down to C, that's, if we are starting in the key of C, that's what Jacob Collier would call negative harmony. He would call it going from F minor 6, which is this, to your C major. So all that is playing a 4 minor 6, resolving it to your 1 chord. And the 4 minor 6 is the same thing as the 2 half diminished. Okay. Sorry if I totally just like made this video way worse. So yeah, you can also resolve down a full step. So if you go, say, to D, right, you resolve down to C. If you did another minor third substitution, so now you're playing an F half diminished, well, guess what? You can resolve down to your E flat that way. But again, just like the last example, you don't even have to do the substitution to begin with. You can just play your B half diminished, and depending on the context, you know, if you don't want to do the sub, you don't have to. You can go straight into it. So if you want to play, you know, whatever chord, whatever. We already talked about those chords, so we don't really need to beat a dead horse anymore. But yeah, so you can use either one of those relationships to justify your resolution and maybe play. You can use that justification to like play certain lead lines over top, like if you want to emulate harmonic minor or major over top of your B flat half diminished chord. You could use those melodies over top to sort of hint at where you're going to go, or you could use it totally throw someone for a loop. You can play a harmonic major over top, and then, you know, depending on how skilled you are at improv, which I am not by any means, you can then use that to resolve to a different key instead of a harmonic major. You could resolve it to A flat, you know. I won't even try to do an example of that. It's not my specialty. So that's harmonic major and minor and how it relates to the system as well. So now we go to melodic minor. Okay, so melodic minor is super cool because melodic minor now opens endless doors for us in terms of where we can pivot to in terms of key centers. So if we were to look at the key of C melodic minor, there, yeah, melodic minor, whatever, C melodic minor. Okay, we look at that key, we have the B half diminished chord, and we also have an A half diminished chord. So there are 2 half diminished chords in that key. So let's say we find ourselves in a situation where we're playing a B half diminished, but we want to go to something different, something other than the 4 keys that we've been going to, which have been back to C, or to A, or to E flat, or to G flat, right? We've been going to those keys each time, those 4 keys, and we're kind of stuck there. If we use harmonic major or minor, we end up back there. If we use regular major resolutions, we end up back there. And of course, I'm talking about those scales and keys in conjunction with the half whole diminished scale minor thirds substitution relationship. That is a disturbing mouthful, I'm sorry. So we want to do something else. We want some more color, okay? So let's say we end up here. So we want to just start by finding our chord subs. So if we're in the key of B, then, if we're in the key of C melodic minor, that means we have a half diminished here and a half diminished there. If we have a half diminished there, well, guess what? We haven't even touched an A half diminished yet. And that lets us, you know, choose if we want to resolve up a half step or down a full step. So maybe if I resolve up a whole step, I'll go to the key of B flat. So that's where I just went. I just went to the key of B flat. Right? That's key B flat, okay? So you can go there with it. Or what you can do is you can say, okay, I'm here, so now I want to go down a full step. And if I go down a full step, I end up doing, right? Yeah, let me think about this. Yeah, so if I go here, oh, no, if I go here, I can go down a full step, down to the key of G, right? So I just went to the key of G, and this was all just using the substitution of, you know, saying when I'm on this B half diminished, I'm just assuming that now that's coming from the key of C melodic minor. If that's coming from C melodic minor, that's nice. I can do I really like that. I can do a chord sub by moving down to the 6th half diminished chord that's diatonic in the key of C melodic minor, and then use our previously established relationships of resolving up a half step or down a whole step to finally land on, oh yeah, good old cowboy chords, dude. They sound great. Okay, so that's using a chord sub downwards. So why don't we use a chord sub upwards, right? So if we are in the key of C, we land here at this diatonic 7th chord, this B half diminished. Who's to say that we're not borrowing this from D melodic minor? Because if we were borrowing it from D melodic minor, that means whatever, sorry. Okay, yeah, so if we're borrowing this chord from D melodic minor, D melodic minor also has a C sharp half diminished chord that's diatonic to this scale. So we could do a chord sub to go up here, and now we can go up a half step, which is landing on D, or we can go down a full step, which is landing on B, okay? So basically what we just did is we just said, okay, from this chord, this B half diminished, you can either go to A half diminished, or you can go to C sharp half diminished, and from there you can keep the same resolution, patterns where you resolve up a half step, down a full step, okay? And also, you can do that same, you know, start from B, go to A, start from B, go to C sharp, so I'm moving in major seconds. You can do that from any of the minor third substitutions. So let's say if we're going, right? We could do that minor third substitution, move up another major second, and then we just went to F. And now I just called it F Ionian by hitting the 11. So if you use this melodic minor relationship in conjunction with the minor third displacements of the half whole diminished scale, and you resolve according to harmonic minor and major and regular diatonic major, then you pretty much have the freedom to resolve to any key with just the B half diminished chord that's found in the key of C. Because again, you're allowed to skip your substitutions if you feel like you don't need to do them compositionally. At the end of the day, all that matters is that you voice lead well. All that matters is that you voice lead well. All that matters is that you voice lead well. If you voice lead well, then you can do whatever you want and no one's gonna say anything, okay? Just maybe people won't listen to your music, but no one listens to mine anyway, but I still have a good time. So yeah, that's pretty much all I wanted to say on the half diminished chord. I wish there was a video on this when I was learning about this chord. It always made no sense to me how to use it. And yeah, if you have any comment or have any questions, leave them in the comments or don't. And yeah, thanks for watching.